Hello, uh, Patreon patrons, YouTube subscribers, and generally anyone who happens to stumble across this video. It's been a while since I've made one of these paranormal or Mandela Effect videos, and I just figured just make some time to make this video really quick. And it concerns the Mandela Effect. And after experiencing several Mandela effects personally. I've made a couple of videos about them concerning the Kung Fu Panda 3 and Murder on the Orient Express. And you can look in those videos and just see what I'm talking about. But just seeing all these other minute details that keep shifting from time to time, and just having to come up with, well, more or less like studying upon it, and just like, well, more or less thinking on it, and coming up with my own uh, theory on what's going on. And more or less coincides with several theories that are currently out there. The whole colliding of dimensions and merging of dimensions, and just wanted to just get my own idea out there or thoughts on the whole phenomenon before I guess anything else happens. But I guess here we go. Now, a lot of us have been living with this whole Mandela effect phenomenon for a few years, and like many of those rationale uh, thoughts out there, I was one of the many who were just willing to just brush it off as just um, misremembered, um, I guess misremembered memories of some sort. And up until like the whole Kung Fu Panda 3 incident that briefly go through is that I had watched Kung Fu Panda 3 on Netflix in 2015 when That's Impossible, where in this timeline Kung Fu Panda 3 was released in theaters January 2016. So there was no way I could have seen Kung Fu Panda 3 on Netflix in the year 2015. And the other Mandela effect I experienced was the um, Murder on the Orient Express. When I first started viewing the trailers for that movie, I had taken note that Colin Farrell was playing the part of the gangster in that movie. I hadn't gotten a chance to see the movie myself, but after looking up all the information, everything, Colin Farrell had nothing to do with that movie whatsoever. And going back on the whole, just witnessing this Mandela effect taking place, I know for a fact, well, I can't say for a fact because I can't produce the facts in front of me, but personally, just knowing my experience, just like watching the trailers come out, like taking note that Colin Farrell was indeed in these trailers, and then over time, just like as the trailers kept getting released, like not seeing Colin Farrell in the trailers anymore, and just seeing Johnny Depp playing the part of the gangster, and I was just very confused. And then taking time to just uh, do a search and seeing what was going on, just like seeing that Johnny Depp was playing that character and Colin Farrell had nothing at all to do with the movie, just not knowing what to do with my memories at that point, and just chalking that up to another point for the Mandela effect, and just having to just constantly rethink on all these experiences I'm having, knowing that I myself can't be going crazy because well, it's hard to try to think back on this logic because it keeps looping back on itself, and just trying to rethink it with a rational state of mind is just so frustrating because it just uh, for lack of a better word, it's just like I said, a just continuous loop of frustration. But anyway, going back to my thoughts on what this whole thing is, and yeah, it does like coincide with various theories that are already out there that they are merging realities coming to like a to an apex of some sort. Now, my whole thoughts on the thing is that I do believe that there were multiple like alternate dimensions out there, and not knowing how many alternate dimensions were involved in this whole thing. But let's say there were maybe 3 or 4 alternate dimensions that were very similar, and each dimension um, faced a cataclysmic world-ending event. But the higher powers that be knew that this cataclysmic event was taking place, knew that each dimension contains like a certain amount of souls in it. Just like, let's say all these souls are just more or less data stored in each of these dimensions, and let's call these dimensions hard drives, let's say. And like each of these hard drives were expected to crash, but the powers that be who managed these hard drives couldn't lose all this data equaling souls, So the powers that be came together and formed a temporary dimension, temporary, I guess, hard drive in a way. Forced all of these souls from each of these realities or hard drives into this temporary dimension. And let's say that they could only save like a certain amount of data from each of these realities. And that's why, like, sure, like a lot of data was lost, but of all the data that was saved, like, they tried to mesh together all the information contained in these alternate realities and have it coincide with the pre-existing notions that we all have. But they could only merge them so much. That's why we're experiencing all these alternate versions of different, I guess, movies, symbols, and historical events. So, that being the case, like, all of these realities faced a cataclysmic event, and for all intents and purposes, all those worlds are now gone. They're they're ceased to be. But all of us now present in this temporary reality are just uh, here in this alternate, I guess, fabricated reality, and we're just meant to be here until this reality solidifies. That is, until all these more or less Mandela effects just more or less smooth over until we accept them into our reality. And I've experienced this with the whole Oscar Mayer spelling. You know, it's come to a point now that the let's use the whole Oscar Mayer thing as an example. That I don't remember. I don't originally remember how I remember it, and now that memory is starting to solidify as this reality is beginning to solidify. And I look at Mandela Effect videos concerning the Oscar Mayer spelling, and now I'm just starting to accept the spelling as it is now, as how it always was, how it always was been portrayed in this reality. In the alternate reality, like from where I came from, I don't quite remember how it was originally spelt for me, because now my memory's starting to flip flop on the whole thing. So I guess that's the part of the Mandela effect working itself out. And when it works itself out, when all of these Mandela effects begin to smooth over and just solidify, that's when this reality, this temporary reality as it was meant to be, will solidify into its own um, dimensional branch as it was. So like say all these these three or four dimensional branches, as I was saying, these three or four branches in reality, or these hard drives like just crashed or were cut off, and we were the all the data that was salvageable were forced into this um, fabricated reality. It's all just temporary until it itself solidifies its existence in the dimensional space and time. So as we stand now in this reality, everything seems to be malleable. So in a way, if um, if we remain to, or if we choose to stay confused about the ifs, ands, or buts of this reality, like the reality will just, in a way, haphazardly solidify around us. But one of my thoughts about this current reality as it stands is that if we all choose to pick the reality that we want, as long as this reality is malleable, we can choose how this reality is set. And we can do this by, I guess, focusing our thoughts and our minds on what we want to perhaps perceive in a way. And you know what? It's I'm not saying that we can like choose to like bring unicorns or anything into existence. Like this reality is set on the same rules that all of our other realities came from. So there are like still certain standards and rules that we all have to abide by, because those are all the standards and rules that this reality was encoded with, and coming from our previous conjoined realities, or not quite conjoined, but just all the similarities that our realities came from. So I'm gonna see what I can do about venturing out, or attempting to start some sort of parapsychological experiment here on YouTube to see what we can do about, I guess, shifting this reality into something more pleasant, perhaps something more lenient. And I think subconsciously, in a way, me and several other people have been able to do this. And that's why, well, personally, I've been witnessing like several different changes in how things are run. And I think that derives from a whole bunch of subconscious and um, wishful urges that I've been leaning or tilting my reality to go toward. So one of my thoughts is that through the um, collective conscious ether, we can collaborate and turn this reality into something that we can all enjoy. And to those who are unaware, the subconscious or well, yeah, the subconscious ether or the collective consciousness ether is just uh, something else that needs a little bit of explaining, and I guess it's not too hard to explain, but I believe the collective consciousness is something that more or less all biological life forms can tap into. And for lack of a better explanation, it's let's say it's um, it's somewhat of a hive mind. Like take ants for instance. Ants operate as a hive mind, and through their antenna, they are able to communicate with each other through their own personal collective consciousness. And what it is a biological Wi-Fi that these insects are able to communicate with. So on a human type um, uh, human type scale, the collective consciousness can be, I guess, worked in the same sense. And I've read on several experiments that could attest to this fact. Say, there was a whole experiment where a new type of puzzle, like a crossword puzzle, was given to a group of people, and it was geared to be very difficult, and it was given to like a set of people, and this group of people took a certain amount of time trying to get through it. And once they were able to figure it out, the same puzzle was given to a second set of people after this first set was able to figure out, and the second set of people were given the same puzzle, and they were able to figure it out in a shorter amount of time. And it's believed that due to the collective consciousness, since the first set of people were able to figure out that puzzle, the thoughts and the know-how to figure out that puzzle was released into the collective consciousness ether, or the human mind Wi-Fi, if you want to refer it as such. That data was already released into that human Wi-Fi, and so the second group of people were able to more or less tap into that human Wi-Fi, or tap into that data when they saw this puzzle. So it's like a, a collective consciousness that all people seem to share and are able to tap into, and some people are able to tap into it a lot better than other people. And this is somewhat, you could call it intuition, if you will. So say like a person were just sitting at home and they happen to think of like a particular specific relative or a friend, and lo and behold, just moments later, that relative or friend happened to either knock at their door or just text them or call them on the phone. And I believe that too is evidence of this collective consciousness that we are all able to tap into. And I believe it is something that really does exist. And if we are able to utilize it and harness it, I think we would be able to shift this whole temporary reality into something that we could all, I guess, consider a utopia before it solidifies. So, in order to do this, I think I will start a new series of videos just attempting to delve into this whole um, collective consciousness through a type of YouTube parapsychological experiment. And I guess we'll just see how that works in the time to come. But anyway, I just wanted to relay my thoughts and plans for that, and hopefully people will begin to join in, tap in, and just see what we can, I guess, see what we can make from that. Anyway, I guess stay tuned, subscribe, like this video if you agree with what I had to say, or whatever. Anyway, I guess I'll check you guys later. Bye.